What's your least favorite season? Now, if you're like me, it's cold and flu season. So get relief from it this year with Mucinex DM. With cough and chest congestion relief for 12 hours in just one dose. That's 3 times longer than 4-hour products. Mucinex DM makes any season comeback season. Even cold and flu season. Get 3 times the relief in just one dose with Mucinex DM. It couldn't be simpler. Nothing lasts longer among over-the-counter cough and cold remedies. Mucinex DM provides 12 hours of relief for chest congestion and cough, day or night. Use as directed.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kenner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome in. It's the Justin Kenner Show with Kev Nash, live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kenner. He's Kev Nash hanging out with you today. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome.
What up, doe?
Off and rolling. Excited to be with everyone here today. A lot to get into. Always excited on these days. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz always jumps on with us. Of course, we'll look ahead to tonight's college football playoff rankings reveal. I'll be very interested to see really the 1 through 4. It's actually going to be one of the probably more boring rankings reveal. Georgia's going to stay 1. Ohio State, Michigan will stay at 2 and 3. And then obviously TCU, who's already at 4 last week. That was without a big win on their resume, really. They get that big win over Texas. I think they're as good as locked in for that number 4 spot. So I think that's going to be it. I mean, not a whole lot of, really question marks heading into tonight. I think, you have your Tennessees, your LSUs right there, kind of on the outside looking in. USC is going to be moving up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's it. That's the crux of it. It's basically Tennessee's probably going to be at 5, and it's going to see how far LSU went up, or did they stay the same, or how far USC actually was able to climb because of Oregon losing and UCLA losing. They're basically out of it. So the last hope for the Pac-12 is USC.
Yep, Oregon gone. They lost, of course, so their playoff chances are officially done. Pac-12, not necessarily done, but we know the ACC, they're out of it at this point. The Big 12, they have TCU at this moment, so they have that one team remaining representing them. Of course, the Big 10 has 2 teams. The SEC, I think everyone's still alive in the SEC. That's how it works, right?
Randy's alive.
All right. Yesterday we talked college football, NFL. That's a lot of what's on deck for today. College basketball tonight, the Wright State Raiders at home at the Nutter Center, 7.5-point favorites as they welcome in Bowling Green out of the MAC. Wright State 1-1 on the season. They had that double overtime loss at the Nutter Center last week against Davidson out of the A-10, the defending A-10 regular season champions. That horrible loss in double overtime after having a 20-point lead, but they followed it up with the big win on the road against the ACC's Louisville. That's a huge win. I know Louisville's down this year, but anytime a Horizon League program is able to get a win like that on their resume, that's big, especially at the buzzer. Trey Calvin won Horizon League Player of the Week. They're back in action tonight. Another good one, Bowling Green coming in to the Nutter Center. The Dayton Flyers, well, they're back in action tonight, but they're on the West Coast. They are at UNLV. And that's an 11 p.m. tip-off. So I don't know how many of you out there are going to be up that late, but knowing how these UD fans operate, they will be up until about 1 in the morning when this one gets done here. But like this matchup for UD, they are a 4.5-point favorite. Wright State, 7.5-point favorite at home against Bowling Green. UD on the road, West Coast at UNLV, a 4.5-point favorite for the spreads. For those of you who pay attention to those things, get used to that, because as we get once sports betting goes live, we're definitely going to be diving into more of that world. That's for sure. But I like these matchups for you. This matchup for UD because it's a true road game. It's not one of those invitationals. It's not a neutral floor game. They're on the road at a good quality opponent. I don't know how great UNLV is, but it's just a good test for them because SMU is not a strong SMU program this year. Right. So, that was an okay team, a good brand to bring into UD Arena last week. And then obviously Lindenwood, I think they're just first year D1 or whatever, but that's a good just warm up game for the season. But I think you really find out when you have a younger roster, experienced roster, at least with 1 year under their belt. But we're going to find out tonight, that first time they get to experience that road environment, West Coast, 11 p.m. tip off. It's early over there, I guess. What is that, an 8 p.m. tip-off over there? So we'll see what happens.
It's a big road test. It's in Las Vegas, for goodness sakes. A bunch of young guys running around the streets of Las Vegas. Watch out now.
What happens in Vegas?
Stays in Vegas.
All right. It's the Justin Kenner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. So with that being said, Kev, I do want to open up a little NFL talk. NFL talk mainly because of the fact that, I find it interesting that at this point of the season, we spend a lot of time, talking about, well, man, it's a must win. It's a must win. It's a must win. And then sometimes teams lose those must wins. And then the next week we're talking about why that week is a must win. And eventually you get so far into the season that at some point we have to say, well, that must win, it has to be a legitimate must win, because if you don't win that one, your season's completely done.
Mm-hmm.
I said yesterday, the Browns season's officially over. I don't see them making the playoffs. So 3-6 on the season. However, that doesn't consistently line up with what I said last week or 2 weeks ago when they beat the Bengals heading into the bye week. I said if they beat the Bengals heading into the bye week, all they have to do is win 2 of their next 3. So all that loss against the Dolphins did was now force them to have to win the next 2. It seems unlikely because the Bucs are starting to play some of their best football, and then the Bills have Josh Allen, but they're coming off back-to-back losses. It's supposed to be a blizzard this weekend. I don't know if you saw the reports of the conditions. This might be exactly what will force Kevin Stefanski to stop being a fool and start running the damn football. 11 carries for Nick Chubb. Give me a break. Like, it's going to have to be a lot of Nick Chubb coming up this weekend. But with that being said, not about the Browns right now. A lot of teams out there heading into must-win scenarios as we approach, we're getting later and later into the season. So we're going to look at some NFL teams, and Kev is going to tell us whether their season is alive, whether their season's on life support, or whether their season's officially dead. 518-1410, by the way. We'll open up the phone lines after the segment for you to jump in on that, or we're live on Facebook. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Like, subscribe, and be involved in the comment section. You can help us, determine some of these teams' fates. Is their season still alive? Is their season on life support, or is their season officially dead? Let's just get to it. The Cleveland Browns, Kev. The Cleveland Browns, they're 3-6. All right, they're coming off of not just a loss. I always say there's a difference between a loss and what we saw against the Dolphins. They got dominated. 3-6. Chances of winning the division very low, but the wild card, they're still right there in the, within arm's reach. Is the Cleveland Browns season, Kev? Is their season still live? Is it on life support, or do I need to start focusing? Do I need to find a new team? Is their season dead?
You start rooting for your other team, your Dallas Cowboys, because the Browns are done. Hot done. Done as it can get, because you're sitting at 3-6 right now, obviously tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers for last place in the division. And you and I both believe that the only team coming out of the AFC North will be the division champion. And that's either going to be Baltimore or it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's simply based off of what's going on in the AFC East, with everybody in the AFC East having a above 500 record. So you're not only battling the teams in your division, you're battling those other teams for the wild card spot, and all those teams are ahead of you. And you lost to the Patriots as well, and you lost to the Jets. So, and then you got the Buffalo Bills coming up. So you lost to the Dolphins. So you're not only behind the Bengals and the Ravens, but you're behind all them as well for the wild card spot. So they're done.
Yeah, like I said, I agree. I believe that their playoff chances, I said it yesterday, although it doesn't line up with what I said 2 weeks ago. But again, this season, if they were 3-6 because their offense hasn't been explosive because of lack of quarterback play and their defense has been great, I would say, okay, keep your head above water. A couple weeks, you get Deshaun back, although there will be that period where you have to wait for him to kind of get back into the swing of things too. But even if you had an elite quarterback right now, that defense is still horrible. The Browns season, I think, is officially dead. I agree. Dunzo. All right, Kev, let's keep it going again. We're taking a look at some of these different NFL team seasons. Are their seasons dead? Are they alive? Are they on life support? That's the big question right now. How about your Pittsburgh Steelers?
Dead.
All right, on to the next one. Now, that team I really want to talk about that's been all in the headlines because of a wacky decision that really kind of turned the sports world upside down last week, the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, they go out and they get Jeff Saturday. There's no way. This was a horrendous move. This is the worst thing ever. There's no way the team's going to win. Now the team wins, and now everyone's doing this thing where just because they win doesn't mean that it was still the right choice, and it's just this weird media spat that's kind of happening right now. But the Colts are 4-5, 4-5-1 to be exact. They're a couple big games back from the Titans, which the Titans are just quietly, winning games. Though they just lost to the Chiefs. It was a close one, though. The Indianapolis Colts, Kev, is their season alive still? Is it on life support or is it dead? What say you?
Life support, because of that tie. That tie is keeping them alive. In all intents and purposes, they should have lost that game. They should have another L on their record, but they don't. They have a tie, and that tie is going to keep them around, and it's going to keep them around for quite some time. They got a lot of opportunities to get some victories over teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans. So they still have opportunities to rack up some wins. Obviously, they're going to have to pull an upset or two. Obviously, they got to go to Dallas. They got to go to Minnesota, two very good teams. Also got to go to Philadelphia. out of those situations, out of those games, they're going to have to get 2. They're going to have to beat Philadelphia, Dallas, or Minnesota. You have to win a combination of those 2 of those games. You got to get 2 of those 3, and obviously getting the victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers to have a true shot. But right now, they're on life support. They can still do it, but I won't jump off the bridge and say they're done, but they're on life support.
All right, and you look at the ESPN NFL Power Index. When you start looking at projections for the season, the Indianapolis Colts right now, 17.3% chance of making the playoffs, according to ESPN's Power Index. Right now, projection, their record of being anywhere between 7 wins to 8.9 wins. Again, it's that type of projection, so we'll see what ends up happening with the Indianapolis Colts. The one reason I would give them a little bit, like you said, life support, I think they're on life support because they went back to Matt Ryan. Now, Matt Ryan wasn't playing very good football, but you start to get the vibe that decisions started being made at a certain point not to win football games. It was, let's start losing football games so that we can kind of clear the coaching room. Let's, get, into the category where we could start getting the quarterback we're looking for in the draft. That's almost the vibe I got. But Jeff Saturday knew going in, I got to win football games, and Matt Ryan gives them the best chance to do that. And there's a reason the Colts, they felt like they were a Super Bowl contender heading into the season. I don't think that's them right now. I think they're too mentally fried. But if they start focusing on, running the football and playing to their strengths with the weapons that they still have, even with that good offensive line, I think they have a chance to make things interesting.
Jonathan Taylor,
Yes.
Paris Campbell had a big touchdown catch last week for their victory over the Raiders. So, yeah, they're still on life support. They're not done yet.
Los Angeles Chargers, 5-4 on the season. Now they're reeling because of injuries.
Yeah.
Reeling because of injuries, and Justin Herbert, busted ribs, ton of injuries at the wide receiver position for the Chargers, that's for sure. But they're 5-4 coming off a tough loss this past weekend. But they're still right there. They're number 8 right now. If the playoffs started today, they'd be out of the playoff picture, but they would miss it by just 1 game. They're still ahead of teams like the Bengals and the Browns and the Colts and the Broncos and teams like that in the AFC. Kev, is the Chargers season is alive still? Are they on life support, or their season dead in your opinion?
They're on life support. But here's the great part about them. They got some victories that they can grab, man. They can grab a victory over the Raiders. They can grab a victory over the Cardinals. They can grab a victory over the Titans. They can get that versus the Colts. So they're not done. I mean, at some point, Keenan Allen's going to come back. At some point, Mike Williams is going to come back. At some point, his receiving core is going to be fully healthy, and they're going to be able to go score some points. And I would really like that because you know who my fantasy football quarterback is, right? Because he's not throwing a lot of touchdowns because got a whole bunch of me and yous out there running routes for him. But at some point, those guys are going to come back, and they're going to be able to score points like they were expected to all season long. So they're still in the mix. They're on life support.
Last AFC team here, and I'll just get, look, they're the Chargers record at 5-4, same as the Bengals. Bengals coming off of a big win. Look, this isn't is their season alive on life support or dead? Their season's still alive, but what is the threshold? What's the gap between life support and alive as the Bengals? I know they're okay. I still think there's a good chance they make the playoffs. I'm not here to bury them, but I also think that they're reeling a bit too, because I think we've seen 2 drastically different games in the 2 games we've seen without Jamar Chase. One horribly performed game where the offense looked completely out of sync. And then the second game, they win big, but you had an uncharacteristic explosion in the run game. Basically a performance that you can't expect to be repeated. I think it's kind of silly to expect Joe Mixon to rush for 4 and catch 1 touchdown every game moving forward. So they're somewhere in the middle there. I think the run game has to come back, but the pass game has disappeared for 2 straight weeks since Jamar Chase has been out. With that in mind, the season is what? I know it's not dead. And I know it's not fully alive, but it's weird saying it's on life support. But what's the gap, in your opinion, between alive and life support for the Bengals?
I would lean more towards life support, and I'm going to keep banging this drum. They have lost every divisional game that they have. They have a above 500 record, but they are 0-3 in the division. So this 4-game stretch is vital. They have to go 3-1. They have to beat the Steelers. They have to beat the Titans. They got to do something with Kansas City. And they got to beat the Browns. More importantly, you got to definitely beat the Steelers and the Browns. That is without a doubt. But think about it like this. One of the sole victories for the Pittsburgh Steelers was week 1, where that defense manhandled the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to be getting back to full strength this coming weekend, 4:30 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's trying to get back into the mix, trying to get on life support. They're trying to do that. And then you got to go to Tennessee, a place where you got sacked 9 times and still came away with a victory. You don't think that fan base and that team is going to be ready to see the Cincinnati Bengals because they came there, took what they thought was theirs, the number 1 seed last year, and they came down there, the Bengals did, and took it from them. So they're going to be amped up. Then you got the Kansas City Chiefs. You know who the Kansas City Chiefs lost to in the AFC Championship game? The Cincinnati Bengals. All that rhetoric off season about having a target on your back is coming to dividends now, because now you're going to start playing those teams that you played in the playoffs. Not only played in the playoffs, that you beat in the playoffs. Yep. You sent them home. Now they got it out for you bad. And then you got to play your arch nemesis in the Cleveland Browns, who you can't beat. So this 4-game stretch, you got to go 3-1. You don't go 3-1. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear anything from Charlie. I don't want to hear anything from any Cincinnati Bengals fans. There's no wiggle room here. It is 3-1 or it's done.
Basically 3, and you have to get those 3 wins against non-Cleveland Browns team. No, but the Cincinnati Bengals, according to NFL's Football Power Index projections, the Bengals have a 9% chance of winning the AFC North, a 63% chance of making the playoffs as of right now, based on projections, and they're projected to finish about 9-8. With 9 wins, closer to 10 wins. It says 9.6 and, of course, 7.4. They use their, of course, calculations to come up with these final numbers here. But I do find these interesting. They are pretty accurate. I saw a thing on SportsCenter the other day talking about how accurate some of these formulas have been and being able to depict that. In fact, the Bengals last year, they kept climbing up this, and everyone ignored it. And they talked about how the Bengals getting to the Super Bowl was not actually a surprise, because the projections on these were very accurate throughout, and kept watching the Bengals climb. So we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you this. Cincinnati Bengals 5-4, Chargers 5-4, both in second place in their division. Which one has a better chance of making the playoffs?
1,000,000% the Chargers, mainly because of the fact that right now their struggles have come because of injuries. When they were healthy, they were playing very good football. But I think the Chargers, the Bengals right now, let's be clear, when they were healthy, they weren't playing good football then. I mean, they're 5-4. They've played all backups. Look, you can take this as a shot, but the reality is they've played all backups. They have an improved Super Bowl roster from last year. You have Joe Burrow, and you haven't won a conference. You haven't won a game in the division. You're only 1 game above 500. And your offensive line is better, and somehow your run game got worse. Your protection is somehow worse. Like, this team is they're not playing very well right now. They're not a good football team. They are a very good roster. They're not a very good football team right now. 5-4, people feel happy about that 5-4 record because they're fortunate to be 5-4. But that's not me throwing shade. That's just the reality of it. The Bengals are 9 games in. We're supposed to just expect that all of a sudden you're going to get it. A year ago, that same record, but they were getting better as the season went on. This team's not getting better. This team is very inconsistent, too up and down. Joe Burrow's not even in the MVP conversation. Tua is better than Joe Burrow this season. So I'm going to go with the Chargers, because I think that, the Bengals can get Jamar Chase back. They were 500 with Jamar Chase. So it's not like they're going to get drastically better. The Chargers, they're going to get Keenan Allen. They're going to get some of these guys back. I think they'll be fine. I'll go with the Chargers.
What about coach? Who would you rather have your coach?
Oof. I'll go with the coach that's at least taken a team to a Super Bowl. Zach Taylor may not win his team a lot of games, but he doesn't cost his team a lot of games. In the eye, some games, yeah. But the Chargers missed the playoffs last year because of Staley. He literally, we could count the games. We could remember the games that he lost them, including the finale against the Raiders to make the playoffs. So
I appreciate you.
I'm out on the Chargers as far as the head coach is concerned. So there's that. All right, that was the AFC side of things. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here. These NFL teams, their season status. Is their season alive? Is it on life support? Or is their season dead? That was the AFC. But what about the NFC, Kev? We'll take a look at the Dallas Cowboys. How about the Washington Commanders last night? By the way, costing me money, knocking me out of my knockout league. Cry, Eagles, cry. Am I right? Let's take a look at the NFC.
He said that, KB, not me.
No, I text him that all the time. Cry, Eagles. Well, not all the time, at least not for the first 8 weeks of this season. But we'll be right back. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at
Radio.
Food Day Nation, Betfred has come all the way from England to the great state of Ohio with over 50 years of sports betting experience. No emperors, no movie stars, just a sportsbook you can trust. The Betfred Sportsbook app will be available on January 1st, 2023. Until then, download the Bengals app or go to betfredsports.com and have a chance to win Bengals tickets and exclusive merchandise. Official sports betting partner of the Cincinnati Bengals. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966.
You need employees.
Tell me about it.
Actually, tell us about it.
Why?
Because when you tell us about your job openings, we can tell over 300,000 other people.
You can?
Yeah, whether you're looking for a job or a better job, Alpha Media Recruitment can help fill any position with qualified job seekers with a custom plan that combines our broadcast and digital platforms.
You can do that?
It's what we do. Alpha Media Dayton, on air, on site, on demand. Call 937-519-0111. That's 937-519-0111. Or email DaytonJobs@alphamediausa.com. That's DaytonJobs@alphamediausa.com.
Hi, this is Eddie Sorrell, Body Shop Manager at Germain Honda Beaver Creek. Our technicians have over 125 years of total experience. That means we can repair your vehicle correctly and efficiently. So when you need a dependable body shop, we're here. And we repair all makes and models with new state-of-the-art equipment to get you back on the road quickly. Plus, we offer loaner cars during service and free estimates. Stop by and see us. Germain Honda Beaver Creek, State Route 35, just east of 675 between Xenia and Beaver Creek.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
You've got advanced prostate cancer, but you're not waiting around. You want straight talk to facts about Orgovix.
Orgovix Relagolix 120 milligram prescription tablets is a treatment for adults with advanced prostate cancer. Fact. Orgovix is a different kind of androgen deprivation therapy treatment, a pill, not an injection. Orgovix may cause serious side effects, including a heart condition called QT prolongation. Tell your doctor right away if you feel dizzy, faint, have a racing or pounding heart, or chest pain. Orgovix can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during treatment and for 2 weeks after Orgovix treatment. The most common side effects include hot flushes, increased blood sugar and blood fat levels, muscle and joint pain, decreased blood hemoglobin levels, increased liver enzymes, tiredness, constipation, and diarrhea. Other side effects include weight gain, decreased sex drive, and erectile function problems. Orgovix may cause infertility. Talk to your doctor if infertility is a concern for you.
Go with Orgovix. Ask your doctor. For more facts, visit gowiththefacts.com.
Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info, answer some questions, then get an obligation offer to sell or trade it. For all of the hits, kbb.com.
There are many ways to catch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You can catch it live right here on 1410 Wing AM, or you can stream the show at wingam.com. But now we have another way that you can take in the show. You can now watch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live on ESPN Dayton's Facebook page. Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Kev, who's DeAndre Carter?
I don't know.
Who's Joshua Palmer?
Don't know.
All right, who's Michael Bandy?
Don't know.
Jason Moore Jr.
Don't know.
You don't know? Why don't you know? You should know. These are the elite weapons that Justin Herbert has that he's played with for 3 straight weeks. I bring this up because William Yelly says, you guys sure do have a lot of excuses for that boy Justin Herbert.
I run the bell. I run the bell.
Let's be clear here.
I run the bell.
DeAndre Carter, you know how many career catches he has? 83. Career catches for Joshua Palmer, 67. Career catches for Michael Bandy and Jason Moore Jr. They have 15 catches career-wise combined between the two of them. Folks, this is what Justin Herbert's working with, all with a coach that loses them a lot of football games on top of that. Let's be clear. Justin Herbert, we're at the point now in his career where he does need to have a little postseason resume, make it numbers. Like, right? Like, I agree with that. But we can't sit here. I deal with crybaby Bengals fan. William is not one, but I deal with crybaby Bengals fans who try to convince me that Joe Burrow doesn't need Jamar Chase to be great, but 2 game shows he does. And then we see things like with Tua Tagovailoa, who did not look like a franchise quarterback a year ago, gets Tyreek Hill and a healthy Jalen Moore. And now look, he's an MVP candidate. This league's not that hard to figure out, Kev. You need talent to win. It's as simple as that. That's not excuses. That's just common sense. You need talent to win. And that's what it's coming down to right now. So the fact that the Bengals, who just lost Jamar Chase 2 games ago, have the same record as the Chargers team who's been beat up since week 2. Yeah, I'd sit this one out, Bengals fans. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. So there's that. Healthy last year, got smoked by the Texans. Yes, every year there are these games that you just can't make sense of. It is what it is. The Jets have beat up on first place teams the last couple of seasons, and the Jets are always picking at the top of the draft. That's just the reality of it. But back to it again, Kev. Again, NFL teams alive on life support or dead. We took a look at some of the AFC teams. Now we'll head over to the NFC. As far as the NFC is concerned, Kev, there's one team that I thought their season was as good as dead, and then they get this weird win over the Cowboys. The Green Bay Packers, 4-6 on the season. They're 1-2 in the division, 3-4 in the NFC. Their strength of schedule right there in the middle. It's not the toughest schedule, not the easiest schedule either. But somehow, some way, I think the most impressive thing about the Packers' win over the Cowboys was that they did it with only 20 pass attempts by Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what I'm more impressed with. The fact that Aaron Rodgers was cool with only throwing 20 passes in a game. His leadership has been questioned. And if he is willing to do, be a more run-heavy team instead of being the one trying to force everything, I think that says a lot about who he is, even though he's shown more examples of being a pain in the ass than anything else. But the Packers, Kev, their season, they're 4-6. All right, they're sitting at the 9th playoff, or there's only 7 playoff spots, but they're sitting in at 9th right now. 4-6 on the season. Is their season dead? Is it on life support? Or with Aaron Rodgers, he's still alive.
He's a bad man. I know, the playoff record, yada, yada, yada. But guess what? This is still the regular season. When you got him, you got a chance. They are on life support. And it's crazy to say that at a 4-6 team being on life support. But if the rookie can continue to catch the ball and make those big splash plays, Watson, and they're still able to basically go ground and pound with 2 running backs, and then you have Aaron Rodgers, and that defense finally made some plays. Imagine that, a high-paid defense making plays. Green Bay Packers, they are on life support because they still have Aaron Rodgers.
I think life support is a very safe label to give them. The Green Bay Packers season, is their season still live? Is it on life support, barely hanging on, or is their season officially dead? If you would have asked me a week ago after losing to the Lions, I would have said, no, they're dead. There's no way. They beat a very good Cowboys team, and they did it. The reason I would rather roll with the fact that I think they look safe doing it is because they didn't dominate in the passing game. They dominated with the run game and won the football game. That says to me that they do have another element to their offense that they can rely on. Maybe the Cowboys' run defense is not very good.
Right.
So there's that aspect of it too.
Smart coaching.
So we got to figure out, it's kind of like the Bengals I said earlier. Not as bad as the Packers aren't as bad as they've looked, but their run game's not as good as it looked against the Cowboys either. It's kind of like the Bengals. I think the Packers fall somewhere in between. Bengals way better than the Packers, though. So I think the Packers on life support their season, that's for sure.
Let me ask you this. These next 4 games, I like to look at it in 4 game spots. How many do they have to win? How many do they have to win?
Who they play matters.
They got,
all of them technically, but it's
right.
Who they play matters.
Titans, at Philly, at Bears, home Rams. How many of them do they have to win? And 3 of those are in prime time, by the way.
So they're sitting there at 4-6. They win 2 and lose 2. That would put them at 6-8 on the season. I think they at least need to go 500. I think they could beat the Bears, and I think that they could beat the Rams right now, who they just put Cooper Kupp on IR. The Rams have not been the same all season. And then who are the other 2? Philly. Philly's kind of an interesting team. Look for Philly now that they've got that loss. I'm interested to see who they are. That loss may have kind of been a release for them. Like, okay, good. We're done talking about us being undefeated. Let's just go play football now. So they're either going to rise to that occasion and come out and look solid and put that loss behind them, or they're going to start to, oh man, we've lost. Now we've been exposed, and maybe it starts spiraling out of control. I don't really know who Philly is yet because of that loss last night. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I'm going to say the Packers need to go at least 2-2. They could beat the Bears. They could beat the Rams, in my opinion. And then I think they're capable of beating Philly. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. We'll see.
I say they got to get 3 I see they got to get 3 of these 4. You got to beat the Rams. You got to beat the Bears. And you got to either get the Titans or Philly. You got to. You can't go on like a 1-win, lose 1. Win 1, lose 1. You'll just basically be running in place. You're going to have to start stacking wins. And like Keith Beyer says, when you stack wins, we call that a
winning streak.
Correct.
You win one game, then you win another game. And you win another game after that. No, but the Green Bay Packers right now, according to ESPN's Power Index projections, a 13.4% chance of making the playoffs.
That high.
And a 0.1% chance of winning the Super Bowl. So there's that.
Type of odds you get in Vegas.
All right, so staying in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers. I know you love Jimmy G.
I do.
I think you're jealous because of all the porn stars he dates. I think
that is actually the truth.
It's a lot of jealousy on your end. I could just feel it. No, but the San Francisco 49ers, 5-4 on the season. And again, they've been battling injuries all season too, but good for them. They found ways to kind of keep winning through those injuries. They haven't been consistent though because of that. But this defense, on paper, when healthy, one of the best, if not the best in the league. They did add Christian McCaffrey, but they haven't been able to get that full swing yet because not everyone's been out there at the same time. Offensive line, they're going to be getting some pieces back here, but they're 5-4 in the season. If the playoffs started today, they hold that last spot, the 7th spot. So they're in the playoffs if this playoff started today, but we just can't get a good feel of who they are. Is their season alive, Kev? Is it on life support? Or is their season dead?
They're about to get very hot. They're about to win the NFC West. That's how hot they're about to get. They're got to make some noise. Not only the back half of this regular season, they're going to make noise in the playoffs. With that defense, that run game, all those toys that they got, 49ers about to make noise. They are more than alive. They're sitting pretty. That's how I view them. I think they're good. I know we're going to do our top 10 later this week, but they're definitely in my top 10.
Yeah. That's,
even with a 5-4 record.
Even 5-4. And I think they're one of those teams that they still, despite the injuries, I know results matter, but again, results matter. Yes, win-loss, but sometimes you could see a fight in a team.
Yeah.
The reason I'm out on Cleveland is because they're losing that fight. There was no fight against the Dolphins. That's why I'm out on Cleveland. They lose in a shootout, in a close one, or just a defensive slugfest. I'm still in on Cleveland. I'm out of Cleveland because there's no fight. San Fran still has that fight. Mm-hmm. That's what I like, and a good coaching job by Shanahan. All right, let's do the New York teams together, Kev. All right, the Giants and the Jets. Coincidentally enough, 2 teams that play in the 2 best conferences in divisions in football. In fact, I think right now, let me look at this just to make sure. But if the playoffs started today, so all the AFC East teams are in the playoffs if it started today.
Crazy.
All but one of the NFC East teams are in the playoffs if it started today, and the one that's out is just 1 game out. So very fascinating. But let's look at the Jets. I know who that's an AFC team, but the Giants, an NFC team. I want to combine the New York teams. The Giants and Jets both seem to be a year ahead of schedule in the eyes of most, or maybe the Jets were kind of positioned to do this. I think some just doubted them. But the Giants, Jets, big time, feel good stories out of that market. We don't pull for them over here, I know. But the Jets, Giants, their season alive? Is it on life support? Their season's dead.
The whole state of New York is alive. They're alive and living well. The Jets, Giants, and Buffalo Bills, they're all going to make the playoffs. Crazy enough, they're all going to make the playoffs. If you're looking at the New York Giants, you're looking at Danny Dimes, and you wonder why they call him Danny Dimes because he rarely throws dimes. But they got Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley out here running the ball like it's 1985. He's getting 35, 40 carries a game. They're throwing them passes out the backfield. He is a workhorse for the New York Giants. Now, obviously, that gets scary because his injury history. But guess what? He ain't injured right now. He looked like he did when he came out of Penn State, and they're riding high. And think about it. They're 7-2. Philly just lost Monday Night Football. They're only a game behind Philly for the lead in the NFC East. And then you go to the Jets. That young defense and that run game, I know Zach Wilson is not like this quarterback that everybody is clamoring after. And, he gets involved in, trying to be Patrick Mahomes and arm angle and all that type of stuff. But they rung them back. They'll say, you know what? We're not about to be out here throwing the ball over the lot. We're going to be throwing short passes to the tight end. We're going to be throwing quick screens to our wide receivers and relying on that defense. So the whole state of New York, you're sitting pretty. You're good to go.
All right. Right now, for me, the Giants, I think, are solid because they're winning because of their strengths. The Jets, don't trust their quarterback. So I'm going to say that their season's on life support. I think right now they're just kind of in a little hot streak right now. I don't trust that
even with that
situation.
many games above 500.
Yes. The Giants I trust more than the Jets, but the Giants are one of the best, most well-coached teams in football right now. So I feel more comfortable about the Giants. The Jets are flashier. That's what also scares me too, is because sometimes that flare can be put out pretty quickly. So the Giants are kind of boring. They run the football a lot, hard-nosed defense, very well-coached team. Daniel Jones is their quarterback. I'll take the quarterback that doesn't press, that doesn't make mistakes. I'm going to roll with that as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that not bad as far as that goes. All right. NFC staying there right now. Let's talk about last night. We only have a couple more minutes, but the team that won on Monday Night Football last night, that cost me money, that knocked me out of my eliminator pool, my knockout league. I didn't realize. I thought the Commanders were. I've been like, oh man, they're going to be picking a quarterback in the draft, and they still might be. Who knows? But they got a big win last night. I love Coach Rivera. I think it's a scum organization, whatever, the owners, whatever. But that's not that's not an indication of who the players and the coach are. I'm a big Ron Rivera fan. They got a big win last night, and I didn't realize that win put them at 500. They're 5-5 on the season. And Taylor Heineke's been a part of some big wins in Washington over the years. They always seem to be going out to try to find the next quarterback, and they might have one. Maybe not the quarterback, but he is a quarterback that they can win football games with. He's proven that. They're 5-5, Kev. If the playoffs started today, they would be just miss it by one game. The Commanders, their season alive. It's on life support just because they're one game out. Their season dead, and this is just kind of smoke and mirrors right now.
Looking at the record, 5-5, I would say they're done, considering all those teams that are ahead of them. But then you look at the schedule. You go to Houston. You got the Falcons, and then you got back-to-back games with the Giants. If you split those games with the Giants and you win those games versus the Falcons and Texans, you're sitting pretty. You're sitting because it's really not about winning the division at this point. I think Philadelphia has too much of a lead on them to win the division, or the Giants for that matter. You can still get that wild card spot. You can still get that 7th spot. So I say they're alive, man. I say that not even on life support. I say they're alive based off the schedule, based off those upcoming games at Houston, Falcons, at New York, and then you get New York again at home, back-to-back weeks. So you split those games with the Giants, you're going to be good.
Defending Super Bowl champion. I think this is kind of an easy one, but it's weird saying, but the Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp injured, put him on the IR. He's out. They haven't even been explosive with them. So there's a lot going on with this team. Offensive line is horrendous, and the defense took a major hit, losing some of their key weapons in the offseason. Alive, on life support, or dead. There's the Los Angeles Rams season.
Dunzo. And it's, the funny thing is they don't get that burn. They don't get that burn that if this was Tom Brady's team that won the Super Bowl the year before and would be flaming out the way the Rams are, that would be getting front page news. If the Cincinnati Bengals were playing as bad as the Rams, they would be getting front page news. I don't understand why the Rams aren't being talked about. Like, they are the defending Super Bowl champs, and they are going out bad. Like, they look bad on offense. They look bad on defense. I mean, we talked about this last year going into the Super Bowl about how many Hall of Famers they got on there. They got Aaron Donald. They got Jalen Ramsey. They got this. They got that. They got this. They got that. And this is what you're giving us? This is what you're coming out here? I guess the Super Bowl hangover is a real thing because the Cincinnati Bengals have been mediocre and the Rams have been complete trash.
All right, 5-1. I'm sorry, not 5-1. We'll get to the phone calls in just a moment. Last team here, this team right now, top their division, probably the worst division in football, and somebody has to make the playoffs. But let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks. Again, two different divisions, but we only have a little bit of time. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Seattle Seahawks. Tampa just beat Seattle in Germany. Right. Kind of a cool atmosphere. They're not kind of. It was a badass.
Did you see those beers?
That was pretty insane. But the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, both of their seasons right now, the Seahawks have been a very kind of a feel-good story. Pete Carroll, this might be his best NFL coaching job he's ever done, including the year they won the Super Bowl, by the way. This team should not be where they're at. The Seahawks should not be 6-4. They're an overachieving team. The Seahawks technically were kind of, trying to win, but also trying to put themselves in position to take one of these quarterbacks in this QB-heavy draft class coming up. But now they're right there in the thick of things, and they figure, well, we're here. We might as well just, finish the deal, right? But they're right there at 6-4, top their division. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers 5-5 atop their bad division. Starting to play a little good. Tom Brady's undefeated since getting divorced, so there's the key to happiness right there, apparently. Your thoughts on the Bucks and the Seahawks, both of their seasons. Are their seasons alive? Are they both on life support, or are they dead?
Alive. Both are alive. And the thing about the Seahawks is this. at first I want to say that they're on life support because I believe so much in the San Francisco 49ers as a team. I think they're going to come on strong. But then you look at the schedule and you think about the opportunities that are there for victories for the Seahawks. I mean, you got Carolina, you got the Rams who's playing terrible, you got Vegas who's playing terrible, and then you get your opportunity versus San Francisco 49ers. But if you keep racking up these wins because you compile so many earlier in the season, these losses aren't going to hurt you as bad because you already have a division lead. And then we talked about this Tom Brady situation is going to end one way or another. It's going to end in the greatest story ever written, or it's going to end in a train wreck. And right now, get your ink pens ready because this story might happen. You called it. 2-0 versus since the divorce. Offense is starting to look a little bit better, starting to run the ball a little bit more. Julio Jones starting to make plays. Is this about to be another Tom Brady story?
He'll be the first guy in NFL history to lose a ring and win a ring on the same season.
Bling, bling.
And it's a copycat league. Watch the divorce rates through the NFL just skyrocket. Skyrocket. And there you have it. Dead, alive, or on life support NFL team seasons as we sit here right now, 10 weeks in. How about that? It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll step away for a few moments. We'll stay in the world of the NFL. Meant to get to this yesterday. Tried. ADD got the best of me. Yeah. Justin Fields. Dan Orlovsky. I like Dan. I think he's a very good NFL analyst on ESPN. But he actually uttered the words, look out for Justin Fields. He could be an MVP candidate this season. You say, what? 518-1410. It's Justin Fields. Do the Buckeyes finally have that NFL starting quarterback, like a legitimate one? We'll talk about that when we come back. Justin Kinner back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Get ready, Ohio. FanDuel, America's number one. Then you will be all set for when FanDuel goes live in Ohio. Then you can bet on all of your favorite teams and all of your favorite sports with $100 in free bets. I think that's pretty cool. All you got to do is download the app. When you register, you use my promo code Kinner, my last name, Kinner, and then you're going to have $100 in free bets waiting for you in your account when sports betting goes live here in the state of Ohio. Just download FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. It is safe, it is secure, and it is super easy to use. Come on, Dayton. This is your chance to get in on the action. Use my promo code Kinner when registering your account today, Kinner. You have $100 in free bets waiting for you. Come on, it's a heck of a deal. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Your daily commute. You could do it alone. The downside is spending thousands each year on gas, parking, and vehicle maintenance, not to mention the air pollution you're causing. There is a smarter way. Introducing GoHio Commute. What is GoHio Commute? It's a free service with info on commuting options like ride matching for carpoolers, van poolers, and bike poolers, and links to local public transit providers. Go to MiamiValleyRideshare.org or call 223-SAVE for details. GoHio Commute, a smarter way.
Everyone can boost their digital confidence with NordVPN. All it takes is one simple click. NordVPN will block online trackers, hide your virtual location, and secure your devices from malware-infected files during downloads. It will also detect malicious websites. So catch the Black Friday deal for a 1 or 2 year plan at NordVPN.com and get 3 months for free. NordVPN. Cybersecurity built for every day.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $69.99. You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Did you know that 3 Ohioans are diagnosed with oral cancer every day? Dentists are doctors of dental surgery and can recognize life-threatening conditions and treat oral diseases before they become serious health complications. Ohio Dental Association member dentists are located throughout the state and are dedicated to providing the highest quality dental care. Ask if your dentist is a member of the Ohio Dental Association and American Dental Association, so you know you're being treated by the best. To find an ODA dentist in your area, visit associationsadvanceohio.com.
Have you heard? $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring Class A CDL drivers for home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight with brand new equipment, and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, company 401k. Plus, they're now hiring recent truck driving school graduates. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
Everyone can help keep our roads safe. When you need to merge in front of a truck, please leave plenty of space. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Down the sideline to the 10 and drags a defender in the end zone for a touchdown. Jackson Smith and Jigba. A 50-yard scoring strike from C.J. Stroud. He'll hit the Purdue 40. Down the left side to the 30. Henderson to the 20, to the 10. And into the end zone goes Henderson.
Don't miss the Buckeyes all season long. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio and on 92.9 Jack FM. Go Bucks!
Ohio State and Maryland this Saturday, right here on Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, 1410 ESPN Radio, and of course on our sister station, 92.9 Jack FM. We welcome you back. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash.
What up, though?
Ohio State, Maryland, 3:30 the kickoff, 2 o'clock pregame coverage begins. In fact, the Submarine House in Troy is where former Buckeye Keith Byers and myself will be live out there, going live throughout the pregame show, walking you right up to kickoff at 3:30. And then, of course, Ohio State just needs to get through Maryland, and then it's all eyes and all attention towards that team up north.
Can't wait.
27 points is the line. Ohio State against Maryland coming up this weekend. So there you go. My Apple Watch is telling me it's time to stand. I thought this watch was cool at first, but, I don't need something else telling me.
You remind me of our brother.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no kidding. Anyways, we welcome you back. So today, how about this? I graduated high school from Van Wert High School, about an hour, 45 minutes north from here. And I decided to get on Facebook today. I was like, I wonder how things are going in the old hometown today. I wonder how I wonder how things are going in old Van Wert, Ohio. Probably have never heard of Van Wert. That's totally fine. But an interesting article came out from my hometown today that, Van Wert County Sheriff's Office is investigating a breaking and entering / vandalism complaint at Lion Farms, which is a mink farm in Van Wert, Ohio. I lived there for many, many years and never knew that there was a mink farm in Van Wert, Ohio. I always say Van Wert is the Xenia of the North, by the way. And this story will prove that. What?
Gosh.
No, like the weirdest things happen in Xenia. And in now my town, Van Wert. So apparently the vandalism, the breaking and entering and the vandalism complaint that happened at this Lion Farms mink farm in Van Wert, Ohio. Apparently it was a animal activist group. Let's just say PETA. I have no idea. But it sounds like something they do. Apparently they went and they let all these mink out. I don't know how do you say mink in plural? Like just mink.
That's a good question. Let's find out. Let's
mink
see what
sounds dumb, so I'm going to say mink.
Mice.
Yeah. So, Kev, imagine this. So, this mink farm, the vandalism and the breaking and entering complaint was because 40,000 mink were released in Van Wert, Ohio. 40,000. Now, these things eat other rodents that are bigger than them: cats, fish, chickens. That's a big deal in Van Wert, Ohio. All right. A lot of farms out there.
Yeah.
So
chickens.
Oh my.
What about
Cats?
the kids?
I don't know. But you don't understand, 40,000.
That's a lot. That's a lot of anything.
That's a lot of anything. Now, it says anywhere between 25 to 40, but I'm trying to tell a very passionate story here. So I'm going to say 40. But even if it's 25,000 mink, have you found out what's his?
No, I haven't.
All right. My farmer people. Let's see what we got. Yeah, someone said it sounds like PETA. Yeah, it has to be. It is what it's. Mink. Are we just going to roll with mink?
Yeah, just roll with mink for right now.
All right.
Because I'm not able to find anything.
Mink or minks, it don't matter. Bottom line is that might be one of the weirder stories. 127 going into Van Wert, Ohio, shut down. I see all over the socials today. No one knows what's going on. Maybe a car wreck. No, just 25 to 40,000 mink running around. Like
it's minks.
It's minks?
Yeah.
Damn it. I was really confident in the mink thing.
But I'm seeing it both ways. I'm seeing
All
it written
right,
as mink and then minks.
So I see, Scott's coming in with minks. Steve Stetler says minks. Steve Stetler also said that minks are mean as hell. He used to trap them.
Really?
So, and they make this weird, annoying noise. But I didn't know there was a mink farm, whatever, in Van Wert, Ohio. Shouldn't be surprised.
So these things are small, obviously. So I'm looking at
a little bigger than
a
squirrel.
So, you know how many of those you got to have to make a coat?
I mean, 25 to 40,000 apparently. And I saw some people having fun at the cup. And by the way, and I'm torn on this too, by the way, because I think that's real crappy. That's the word I'll use. I think it's real crappy just to have a entire I guess that's cows too, and I eat cows. I'm just a hypocrite. I don't know. I'm sitting here saying it's wrong to have all minks just to kill them, but then I'm going to probably go get a burger after work. So no, but I think it's mean just to have all these animals there just to kill. But I'm like, that is just, Darwinism at its finest right there, right?
Yes, it's mink.
It's
mink.
So it's
plural.
Mink. All right. Haha, mink, people. But you know what? I'm not here to judge. So bottom line is like, I see both sides. I see why whoever, let's say PETA, okay, decided that it's mean to keep these animals, whatever I mean, like all caged and everything, just to basically skin them and make fur coats for everybody. Okay. But I think it's even dumber to let them all out. They don't even know how to fend for themselves.
Right.
So they're going to die. It's cold out. They're going to get, they're going to freeze to death. People are going to run them over in their cars. The cats who own the area, it might be a good fight, but I'm going to put my money on some of them farm cats. Them farm cats mean business.
Yeah. They've been out in these streets for a while. These mink been eating good, living life. Kind of like, I don't know if you're not a movie guy, but I'm sure our listeners remember the movie Free Willy. So in the movie Free Willy, it was all about setting this whale free back into his environment instead of being locked in, the tank and everything like that. But they actually really did that to the animal that was Willie, and they freed him, and he died because he wasn't used to being out in the environment.
That was one of my favorite movies growing up. In fact, remember at the end of that movie, they had this number you can call, and then you get a Free Willy poster, and then you got that little cool little emblem or whatever. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I had little Free Willy stuffed animals as a very, very little kid. I loved that Free Willy movie. So someone actually tried to free Willy.
They actually freed Willie, and Willie died because he was a quote unquote indoor cat.
So what I mean? Made a second movie that was called I Killed Willie.
They made a Free Willy too, didn't they?
They freed him twice. It was a good movie.
I'm surprised you saw it.
As a kid, I watched a lot of movies.
Not anymore?
Not anymore.
Oh, goodness.
So, Mark Abshire. What up, Mark? He goes, Free Willy eats mink. Set him free. Let's see. Someone said mink to orcas is a big jump. I gotta give you a come on, man. Hey, you want us to talk politics? I highly suggest you let us talk mink. Got it? That's
Free Willy 2, The Adventure Home, July 95.
And how come they've never made another? So you know what? I'm surprised I did like Free Willy as a kid because I was afraid of everything. Shocker. My parents took me to SeaWorld. I was real spoiled. And at SeaWorld, when the big orca jumps out of the water and splashes everyone, I'm sorry, the movie was great. My parents thought I would love it, so they took me to SeaWorld. It's one thing to watch in a movie. When you see that big ass whale jump out of the water when you're a kid, I thought I was about to die. I thought we were all going to die. I'm screaming. I'm just absolutely terrified of this big ass whale, but I guess they torture the animals now, or it's whatever, so they're not allowed to do that or something.
Who knew? Free Willy 3, The Rescue.
When?
97.
What? There was 3 Free Willies? My God, talk
Free
about
Willy
persistence.
4. The Escape. 2010.
2010? I got to go watch Free Willy 4. I got to find out if they finally freed him, because apparently they really suck at this. Someone said I got my ass soaked at SeaWorld. Forrest said they made 3 Free Willies. Now I'm getting made fun of from Shaw. He goes, the man who hasn't seen Godfather has seen Free Willy. Oh, my gosh. All right, let's see. Anything else we could add to this? Brian Schwederman, he's from up in that neck of the woods, not Van Wert, but, up north. He goes, mink stew, special Christmas delicacy.
Wow.
What else here? What else? But yes, so if you're just tuning in, why the hell are we talking about mink? By the way, some people are coming in hot saying, no, it's minks. Other people are saying, no, it's mink. I'm going with mink. I think it just sounds more sophisticated. The mink. I'm just going with mink. But yeah, Van Wert, Ohio. It's where I'm from, where I graduated high school. No one knows me there because no one liked me there. It's kind of like here, just I have a radio show. But point is, decided to see how the old hometown's doing. Check the Google. All of a sudden, it's all these stories about mink. Like, what the hell? I didn't even know there's a mink farm. Someone released it. There's 25 to 40,000 mink just basically overrunning Van Wert, Ohio right now. Kind of interested to see. I want to drive there just to drive around. Like, they make this annoying ass noise. All the people that live out in the country are probably terrified. It's going to go and eat all their chickens.
Well, what are they going to do?
And by the way, all the food shortages out there. Everyone's talking about, COVID. That's why we don't have food. That's the damn mink. Now we're going to blame the mink for why we don't have food.
They're going to die. It's freezing outside.
But look, I wonder how good the mink farm. I wonder how good of a job they were doing taking care of these dudes. Like, were they like warming them up? Did they have them in a warm?
I would imagine so.
So mean. By the way, I have like farmer friends who like name their cows.
And then
I think that's horrible. I think that's horrible, by the way. Like, I love animals. So like, and by the way, I'll pick the hamburger over the life of the cow. I get that. Like, I'm horrible. I'm a hypocrite, blah, blah, blah. But I think I would have a hard time raising the cow and then sending it off to die.
Betsy.
So I have friends living in Mercer County for as long as I did that were all farmers. Shout out to Damon. And now he has kids, and he's like taking pictures of him and his daughter and the cow, and they actually call the cow by his name or her name or whatever. And I'm like, that's horrible. You're letting your kid like get close to that. Like, imagine like the cat at home that your kid absolutely loves, and then you just take it off to kill it. Now, some of you parents probably have, because you probably hate cats, but your kid would be devastated. I just don't know how you name the cow and then you go on and just slaughter it. Boom.
We're off the rails today.
It's like a Friday show.
What is today? Today's only Tuesday.
No kidding. Mark Absher says Revenge of the Mink, new movie. Ay. Some guy on Facebook, he cracks me up, but I always have to read his stuff because he always goes too far with things. So I always got to be careful. So, find my Google says anything. Oh, okay. This was good. Some guy. He says mink can withstand the cold just fine. My Google search says they're native in Canada. So I'm sure the cold is not a bother to them.
Okay.
So look
Fair
out,
enough.
Chickens.
Well, they say they're
Mink
similar
is going
to
to go get the chicken. Don't worry. I wasn't going to do it. I really want to make a joke, but
don't do
we're
it.
not there yet.
Don't do it.
As my old OM once said, you don't have the license to go there with your audience yet. So just chicken it is.
Well, they say they're similar to squirrels. So we see squirrels running around in the wintertime. So I guess they'll be all right.
Those chickens are dead. Those kittens and cats are dead. I'm really curious. I want to know who's going to win between the farm cats and the minks. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. My bad. Stick to sports.
I forgive you.
So when we come back, what will old Donald Trump's big announcement be? Where's the red wave? We'll get to all of that when we come back right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
At the Home Depot, we have Black Friday savings all through November. And with that comes a joyful holiday bustle that we just love to hear. Although we also love the sound that comes after the holidays, when people put their new tools to use. In fact, we love it so much. When you buy select Milwaukee M18 kits, you'll get an extra tool for free. So after you're done filling the air with holiday magic, you can fill it with the sounds of doing. The Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Okay, smile naturally. Perfect.
Cam's photography knows wedding season ramps up in a flash. They need to say I do to a studio assistant before clients go full bridezilla.
I'm so sorry. I have to get a different lens. I'll be right back.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Locally owned since 1984. Under our new management, the staff and store are buzzing to get you set up for the open road. Whether you're shopping for merchandise, a new bike, or just need some maintenance on your current ride, Harley-Davidson of Xenia is here for you. Visit us online to learn more and to place a reservation on your new bike. hdofxenia.com.
Buckeye football season is back. That means tailgating and parties for the big game. You need the Lee's famous recipe Buckeye Bucket. It comes with 25 pieces of the delicious jumbo breast strips for only $44.99. Of course, you can add a few of their famous country side items, buttermilk biscuits, gallons of fresh brewed Lee's iced tea, or lemonade. You have the perfect recipe for a tailgate or watch party. Cheer on the Buckeyes this weekend with a Buckeye Bucket. Order today.
Hurry into Menards for the last 11% off in 2022. Secure your home with our wide selection of True-Bolt lock sets and deadbolts. True-Bolt door locks provide homeowners, professional installers, and builders with quality products at an affordable price. Available in a wide variety of finishes, you'll find the perfect one to match your style. Get 11% off all True-Bolt lock sets and deadbolts at Menards. Good through November 23rd. Savings are mail-in rebates. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
And into the end zone goes Chris Olave. KJ Hill, 6-yard touchdown catch. Right sideline and down he goes to the end zone.
WING 1410 Dayton's ESPN Radio.
All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. All right, so coming into this season, really coming into the last two seasons, as Buckeye fans, we don't really care about the Bears too much, but kind of keeping an eye on the Bears just because of our dude Justin Fields doing work over there, of course. But the Chicago Bears right now 3-6 on the season, and it's interesting because for the last 3 weeks, I mean, we thought they were going to be horrendous offensively, but they've scored 29 or more points in 3 straight weeks, and they've lost all 3 of those. They lost at Dallas 49-29. Score 29 points and you lose by 20. I mean, that's that defense for the Bears. Of course, they move on from Roquan Smith. They move on from a lot of their key defensive dudes. So it kind of doesn't surprise me that, since they moved on from some of those guys, even just those two dudes alone that they moved on from. Since then, they've given up. I mean, let's say they've given up 49, 35, and 31. Cowboys, Dolphins, Lions. But losing all 3 of those, they lost 49-29 against the Cowboys. They lost 35-32 against the Dolphins and 31-30 against the Lions. So with that being said, while everyone's focused on how many points they're giving up, I always say this. When you are a rebuilding team, I think it's smart, although the Bengals did it in a way that I'll give them credit for. Like they hit on both sides of the ball on defense, and then they plugged in they went all in on free agency on the defensive side of the ball while they hit on all their draft picks on offense. So, and then they used some money on the offensive line this past offseason. I liked the way the Browns Browns fan or not, just ignore that, please. Like, my point with this is I like the way the Browns did it after that season, after they went 0-16. their whole goal because remember, the Browns were very bad defensively right away too, because their whole thing was, we're going to go all in offensively. So they drafted, they already had Myles Garrett. They drafted Denzel Ward. They got their quarterback in Baker Mayfield, or who they thought would be their quarterback at the time. And then they went all in financially on offense. And then they just were patching the defense with draft picks, and they were a little rough defensively. And then they started turning the corner and focusing on the defense. Remember, they went and got Joe Johnson from the Rams. Who was the other guy they got from the Rams?
Hill.
John Johnson, and then Hill. And then, of course, they go and get Jadeveon Clowney a couple years ago. But this is after they went and got Austin Hooper at the time. They got Odell. They traded for Odell Beckham Jr., right? They get Kareem Hunt. Like, they provided Baker, just enough rope to hang himself, right? Like, that's basically what happened. But they went all in on offense, drafted defense. And then once the offense was taken care of one offseason, they went all defense the next offseason. No right or wrong way to do it. I liked that. It kind of made sense. That's why I kept saying with the Bengals heading into last season, I got a lot of takes wrong with the Bengals. But my whole thinking with the Bengals was, you're not going to fix everything in one offseason. So just put all of your money and resources into the offense. I was annoyed when they got Hendrickson. I was annoyed when they got Hilton. I'm like, stop. Like, spend every available dollar you have and provide Joe Burrow protection, provide him weapons. But obviously they already had an elite running back in Joe Mixon. I know he's down this year, but at the time he was an elite running back, and maybe he still has some of that left in him. T. Higgins looked good in his first year. Tyler Boyd, obviously. That's why I thought it was silly, whatever. But they went all on offense on that, but then they kept balancing it out. But hey, that worked too. They were in the Super Bowl. So I can't knock that too much right now. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to go about it, but the Bears have a lot of holes to fill.
Mm-hmm.
They let go of all their key defensive pieces. They now have a lot of draft picks, and right now, if the season ended today, they'd have the number 2 draft pick in the NFL. So, but the big question mark is, when you have a big draft pick like that and you're not sold on your quarterback, do you do what the Niners did? They like Garoppolo, but that's not really who you aspire to have at quarterback, right? You want the elite quarterback, so they took a chance with Trey Lance. They're back with their ex now in Garoppolo. So, with the Bears, they're going to have a very interesting decision to make, because they're going to be picking atop the draft, whether it's the number 1 overall pick or in the top 5. That's where they're going to be in that range somewhere. Is Justin Fields the guy? You had asked me a month ago. In fact, a month ago, I remember on this show saying specifically, Justin Fields is another NFL bust at quarterback coming from Ohio State. We had that conversation. Am I willing to say I'm wrong? Possibly. Justin Fields, you can't ignore what he's done the last 3 games. Do we need to see more? Absolutely. Do I want to see more through the air? Absolutely. Because the thing is this is where I notice Buckeye fans being a little hypocritical. The same Buckeye fans that don't like Lamar Jackson, that discredit Lamar Jackson, are all of a sudden, man, look how great Justin Fields is. The one thing I would go with Justin Fields over, although it does sound kind of stupid to say he's better than Lamar because he's not, but his athleticism matches Lamar's and his ability to make plays with his legs matches Lamar. I will take Justin Fields' arm over Lamar Jackson. But the big question that the Bears have to ask themselves is, do they trust that arm, the NFL arm? We know what he could do in college, and we see glimpses of it in these NFL games the last couple of weeks. He's made a ton of plays with his arms. He's thrown for 1,400 yards. He's rushed for 800 yards. He leads the team in passing. He leads the team in rushing right now. So, he's doing a little bit of it all. And offensively, they've exploded. So I'm curious to see what the Bears do with Justin Fields. I'm not really that curious. I know what they're going to do. I think he's their guy. But it's going to be one of those gambles that the Bears have to take, because I'm wondering, too, if the reason they drug their feet on putting weapons around him is because they don't believe he's the guy. I don't know what the Bears have been sending mixed signals with him for so long. They traded up to get him. So I'm like, oh, man, they're going to go all in and protect him, right? But then they did nothing. For 2 straight seasons, they gave him no weapons. In fact, they took weapons away more than added. They didn't do anything this past offseason. So I don't know I can't tell what the Bears are telling us. The Bengals got Joe Burrow. They told us they love him. They put everything they could around him. Good for them. I didn't think they would. They did. That's how much Joe Burrow meant to the Bengals. You all can mock Baker all you want, but the Browns loved Baker Mayfield. That's why they went out and gave him every single thing that they could possibly imagine. They gave him 2 tight ends. They gave him 2 running backs. They gave him the best offensive line in football. They went and got Odell Beckham Jr., who at the time they thought that was a good get, right?
It's like the Bible, 2 of everything.
Yeah, like it's Baker's Ark, and it sunk, by the way. But the bottom line is with the Bears, they're not telling you that. Like the Chargers did that with Justin Herbert. Give the Dolphins credit. They got Tua. Not everyone sold on Tua, but the Dolphins went all in to get him everything he needs. The Bears aren't doing that with Justin Fields. So it's like, I want to believe that he has turned this corner, Kev. I want to believe that he's going to be, the face of Buckeye quarterbacks in the NFL. But the Bears aren't telling us what all the other teams in the NFL are telling us about how much they love their quarterback. Is it just a bad organization? Which, yes, probably. But or are they telling us, Kev, yeah, the reason we're not going all out to bring weapons in is because we're not sold on who we have at quarterback yet. What say you in this situation?
I'm going to reserve judgment on this era of the Chicago Bears because remember when Justin Fields was drafted, Nagy was the coach and they had a different GM. Nagy got fired, GM got fired, new regime, new head coach. Everybody, including myself, wanted Doug Peterson to be the Bears coach because, like, all right, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's a former quarterback in the NFL. He's guided teams to the playoffs. I want him to put his imprint on Justin Fields. Ultimately, he goes down to Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. So now we're with a defensive-minded head coach, and the offense that they're running now is nothing like the offense that they were running like the first 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season. So I want to give their head coach a lot of props for saying, you know, we're trying to win. We're trying to put our team in the best position to win, at least offensively, and to see if he has it or not. Obviously, we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and this is not working. So let's do what he does and what he can do well right now and then start building around him. I think the Bears are going to go the route that the Dolphins did. They're going to give you a lot, and if you mess it up, it'll be a landing place for another quarterback. I mean, shoot, who says Aaron Rodgers is going to be with his, the Green Bay Packers for multiple years?
If he gets to pick a team, he would love to go.
And he already talks about I own Chicago and everything like that. So I think that the Bears are going to do in the draft and potentially in free agency, you know what? All right, let's do what they're doing down in Miami. They had question marks about Tua. Well, we're going to give them Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, a star receiver in the NFL and a star receiver coming out of college. You ain't going to have no excuses then. So I think that's the route that the Bears should go and see if Justin Fields can operate with that type of weaponry on the team. And if they do, it's all good, just like it's all good with Tua now. And if he don't, it's a landing place for another quarterback.
So, and real quick though, and I agree with you because I think my point about bringing up how the Browns did it was that's how I used to think that was the smart way to go. But we're seeing there's multiple blueprints for how to build these teams. The Dolphins did it in a little bit more methodical way. The Bengals did it hot and heavy right off the bat. The Browns did it hot and heavy right off the bat. Their results didn't match the Bengals, of course, but whatever. Point is the Bears, I don't know what they're doing. But the problem is they're rebuilding within a rebuild. Like Justin Fields was a part of the rebuild, but then they've had a rebuild within the rebuild since then. So I like that they've kind of shipped off their elite defensive players to get draft picks because you can draft defensive guys come in. I mean, these guys are coming in now ready to play. You could turn things around pretty quickly. And the Jets, by the way, another example of a team that they went and got their guy. You know, the Jets went out and they got their guy weapons right off the bat. They almost got Tyreek Hill. They almost got Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
So the Bears, we'll see what happens. I just thought it was very strange that they did zero to help him in the offseason, zero. And then they unload everything. And then they go get Chase Claypool, which may seem that move was kind of whatever. I think that will be a bigger move, big picture, when you go get that number one.
Yeah.
I think that Chase Claypool is a solid guy when you have a number one. I just don't think he could be your number one. He thinks he can be your number one. And if he turns into that, more power to you. So Josh Maloney on Facebook said, go get him Jackson Smith and Jigba. That may very well be what ends up happening. The Bears could trade back a little, you know, if they don't need a quarterback. This draft, and when you're rebuilding draft picks, I mean, draft capital is money. I think I could see them saying, okay, if we're sold on Justin Fields, and there's all these quarterbacks up here that teams are just drooling over, how much does this pick mean to you? Because we could drop back in the draft and get a wide receiver in free agency, or we can get him later. I don't know if Jackson Smith and Jigba goes to Chicago unless they do what the Bengals did. The Bengals years ago, they took, Jamar Chase. But as a Buckeye, I can't sit here and tell you that Jackson Smith and Jigba is Jamar Chase. I don't think JSN is that generational talent. I think he's very, very good. He's going to help teams right off the bat. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think that I get why the Bengals did what they did for Jamar Chase. Do you put JSN in that same category?
He's not. Jackson Smith and Jigba is not a burner. He's not going to go to the combine and run 4.3 like Jamar Chase did. He's not going to run that fast. He's going to run in probably like a 4. He might even run a 4.5. That's not bad. I know everybody's going to be like, 4.5, but he's slow. No. He's a great route runner, and he's diesel. So to be a burner, no. But like to be an impact receiver, absolutely. I believe JSN can do that.
Good to the and I'm with you on that. My point is, if the Bears have a top 3 pick, the Bengals had a top 5 pick and took Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
You know how good you have to be as a wide receiver for a team to not trade back with that, because you can get wide receivers anywhere. But they said Can't get that wide receiver.
Right.
Is Jackson Smith that kind of guy that teams are like, the Bears can say, well, yeah, we'll just draft Jackson Smith and Jigba, but we could also trade back and get a receiver, but not that receiver. Is Jackson Smith and Jigba that receiver that you could take in the top 5 and it be justifiable?
I don't think he's a top 5 talent. I think
hater.
I think that Garrett Wilson, where was Garrett Wilson drafted? He was 5th.
They're both in the top 10.
They were definitely
remember but that was a weak draft quarterback wise. Like there wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like
I think talent wise, I thought that Garrett Wilson was the best receiver on Ohio State's roster. But when Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Chris Olave were on the field together, he was the one that was the go-to guy. He was the one shining the brightest. And I know everybody wants to go to the Rose Bowl game. Throw out the Rose Bowl game. He still had the best stats out of all of them. He led them in catches, receiving yards. He was second in touchdowns. He was balling out of control. And I think that since he hasn't played this season, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. We kind of forget like what he was capable of doing, and kind of almost like all the guys that opted out of the COVID season. Like we kind of forgot about him. Like nobody remembered what Jamar Chase did his sophomore year at LSU. You know, it was like, man, what about this guy? What about that guy? No, we remember what this dude did the entire season. He went for like over 1,700 yards, and the other guy went for freaking 1,800 yards. And Justin Jefferson, they were just balling out of control. So I think for Jackson Smith and Jigba, us as fans are already moving on to the next guy or the next wide receiver out there. Like, who's the next guy? Because he's not playing, but the NFL scouts know how good he is.
Yeah, and remember Jamar Chase too. And by the way, I'm not comparing the two. Jamar Chase is a generational talent. I love Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I don't think he's a generational talent. But I think that it would be dumb to say he's not going to make an impact in the league right off the bat. I think he will. But my point is with this is, you know, to your point about kind of not recency bias, but like, you know, kind of he's been out of sight, out of mind for fans. But like William Yelly on Facebook says Marvin Harrison Jr. is way better.
See,
we think that, and he might be, by the way. He's amazing, by the way. He might be. But we're just saying that because we haven't seen one and we've seen a lot of the other. But if Jackson Smith and Jigba was here, would he be, you know, 1A and 1B? And maybe that's what it still is to begin with. But I mean, I don't know. By the way, I agree. Marvin Harrison Jr. is freaking amazing and would be a top 10 draft pick this year if he was coming out. But luckily, Ohio State gets him for one more.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 6'4" and you have that body control and that footwork and that route running, you're unbelievable. But I am a firm believer in, like, since Jackson Smith and Jigba hasn't played, people are just basically on to the next one. And you can't tell me it's part of Buckeye Nation that isn't looking at him with the scowl eye, like, why aren't you playing? Get out there and play for the Buckeyes, the old OHIO. People are looking at him differently now because he's not playing. But guess what? He gets healthy and he balls out of control versus that team up north. People will be wearing that 11 jersey just like they were before.
Some guy on Facebook. And by the way, when I reference some guy, for those who are newer to the show, his name on Facebook is some guy, just so we're all clear. I'm not just referencing some guy. I mean, it's some guy. But he goes, it's irrelevant. Also, not the one who's draft eligible after this year. I think he might be talking to one of the dudes that dropped Marvin Harrison Jr.'s name. But some guy, absolutely. I think the only time he's wanted to slit my throat is whenever I kept bringing up will Jackson Smith and Jigba play again this year? So some guy, what do you think? Will Jackson Smith and Jigba play again this year? No, I got that one right, by the way. Got that one right. Just want to throw that out there. The whole point of this conversation to this point, the Bears, I don't know. I'm not. So, for instance, Doug Toby says, you put Fields with Philly in 2 years experience, he would be the one who's probably just as good as Hurts. First of all, that's what you hope. We don't know. We don't know. I mean, Justin Fields 3 weeks ago was another Buckeye bust in the NFL. And then all of a sudden, things have emerged for him. That's fantastic. That is super. But when I say things have emerged for him, it's because they started utilizing his ability to run the football, and that's great. But, you know, I am kind of curious. I mean, we're watching Lamar Jackson, who plays very similarly, and it's one of those things where their team hasn't paid him yet. So the Ravens are even saying, like, we're reluctant for this style of quarterback. We love this style of quarterback, but we're reluctant to marry this style of quarterback. So what are the Bears telling us? The Bears, to me, are like saying we're reluctant on Justin Fields, but I think we're going to make him our quarterback next year. I think it's going to be like you. It's a great example. I think the Dolphins, their approach with Tua heading into this season is exactly what I think we'll see with the Bears with Justin heading into next. But I don't think I don't think we know if he's elite or not. Is he the guy? Is he
way too early to say he's elite? Okay. Elite?
I always like when we agree, because I'm always like, man, am I just being a Buckeye hater like everyone accuses me? But I don't
Elite?
think he's done anything long enough for us to
it's
be
been
excited for him. happy
Yeah,
for him.
absolutely. He's been balling out of control. And obviously, we're all rooting for him. He's a Buckeye. I mean, obviously, but like it's been 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks. You can't stamp somebody with the elite tab after 3 weeks. Like people are still reluctant to stamp Tua with the elite tab, and it's been
He's been elite.
11 weeks. 11 weeks into the season he's played.
Yep.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing to say, oh man, hey man, he's looking good. He's playing a lot better. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And we talk about the Dolphins loading up their roster. So did Philly. They spent a lot of draft capital to get AJ Brown. They Devontae Smith out of Alabama. Like they loading him up with wide receivers early in his career before they have to pay him.
It's like it used to be. You got to prove to us that you're good before we give you toys to play with. Well, it's like you know what I mean. It's kind of like when you have. I don't want to compare these players to dogs, but you know if your dog is good with other dogs until you put your dog in front of other dogs. You got to socialize a bit. You got to give these quarterbacks weapons to know if they're good or not. Joe Burrow, MVP candidate with Jamar Chase, and that offense looks unstoppable. Without him, he threw for 200 yards the last time he was out on this field. And he looked horrible the game before that. They won because of the run game last week. Now all of a sudden, Joe Burrow doesn't look elite because he doesn't have Jamar Chase. Tua, the Dolphins almost felt like they were ready to move on from him to go get Tom Brady. They gave him weapons. Now Tua's about to potentially be, no, not potentially, he's in the MVP conversation. Jalen Hurts, last year, no one was buying into it. So you go get A.J. Brown. You're like, oh, man, he can play with an elite wide receiver. That's how you know if he could play or not. Justin Fields, the Bears need to do the same thing, but we don't know. Our Buckeye fandom and homerism, we're sitting here saying, oh, yeah, he's definitely arrived. He hasn't arrived yet. And that Dan Orlovsky comment yesterday about him being a MVP candidate, come on. Now, to be fair to Dan Orlovsky, it wasn't that he's an MVP candidate. He said that he could be by the end of the season based on the last 3 weeks. But even then, not even then. I mean, come on, the Bears are bad. You're not going to be an MVP candidate when your team's – we're talking about who you're going to draft in the top 5 when it's all said and done. They're not losing because of Fields. I will say that, and they've had a chance to win because of Fields. But, again, from a 3-game stretch, he's been there for 2 years, and this is the first 3-game stretch where we felt like he has something to work with. Jay Book from Bucknuts yesterday said he's this generation's Michael Vick. And I'm not joking. That I'm not spitting out of context. I retweeted it and rolled my eyes at it. I know Buckeye fans have never seen an elite Buckeye quarterback in the NFL, and it's showing because we have no clue how to react to what we're seeing right now. We'll end up seeing what happens, but there you go.
We'll see.
Adam Selzner on Facebook says, prove your worth was totally true until the Rams went to the Super Bowl with Goff. What?
I'm not sure.
I don't mean to be mean, Adam. I'm not sure. I'm not following what you mean. Prove your worth was totally true until the Rams went to the Super Bowl with Goff.
Goff had a great year.
Yeah, Goff that year. Remember that Monday Night Football game between Carson Wentz, holy smokes, Goff and Patrick Mahomes?
Mm-hmm.
It was the Rams and the Chiefs, and it was actually when the Rams were playing at the Coliseum while their new stadium was being built. It was that instant classic. Both quarterbacks threw for like over 400-plus yards. Both threw for like, I think, 10 touchdowns combined, over 1,000 yards between the two. It was like the game, maybe the best Monday Night Football game ever. Remember, it was being tabbed that. Goff looked like he was a gunslinger. He looked like a guy that was like a Peyton Manning type dude. Now he's definitely not. Definitely not.
Definitely not Peyton Manning.
So, all right. It's the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz will join us next. The College Football Playoff Rankings, the third set of rankings comes out tonight. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be a pretty boring one. There's not a whole lot of change that's going to happen because freaking TCU. Hate TCU. The Horny Frogs. Can't stand the Horny Frogs. Justin, they're the Horned Frogs. Yes, but I'm immature, and they're such a boring program. Got to mix it up a bit. In fact, they've never been cooler and funnier until I named them the Horny Frogs. You're welcome, TCU. We'll be right back.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
Don't put it off any longer. You know it's time. Time for a bathroom upgrade by Bath Creations. Bath Creations is a leader in bathroom renovations, providing the very best value in bath and shower remodeling and proudly made in the USA. With Bath Creations, you get a beautiful modern bathroom that's safe, comfortable, and affordable. Attention first responders, veterans, and active military. Save $500 off your purchase right now. Visit Poe Avenue in Dayton or online at mybathcreations.com. And upgrade today.
Are you sick and tired of living with that constant pain in your knees and back? You know, joint pain doesn't just keep you from doing what you love. It affects your job, your relationships, even simple things like getting dressed. Hey, it's Keith Byers. It's time to call QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics uses advanced regenerative medicine to restore and repair damaged joint tissue, giving you your life back. Hips, shoulders, elbows, they can all be treated with natural biologics from your own body. Powerful healing agents, highly concentrated. If you're tired of steroid shots that don't work, or if you're trying to avoid surgery, call QC Kinetics now to schedule your free consultation. Learn about these exciting new cutting-edge treatments for pain caused by arthritis or injury. No drugs, no pain meds, no downtime. This is an all-natural treatment that can get you lasting relief. People here are raving about the results. Call now. Appointments are available for the coming week. QC Kinetics. Call 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325.
Want to get a $1,000 Visa card from your Medicare plan? At WellCare, our Medicare Advantage plans are simplified so you can enjoy all the great benefits you care about most. Like our WellCare Flex card, a preloaded debit card that gives you up to $1,000 to pay for extra dental, vision, or hearing expenses not covered by your plan. Like hearing aids, dentures, prescription glasses, co-pays, and more. It's just one more way WellCare is improving every aspect of Medicare to give you access to the top tier benefits you want most. Plus a little extra. To learn more about WellCare, visit wellcareforoh.com today. That's wellcareforoh.com to enroll today. WellCare, it's Medicare done well. Benefits vary by plan. WellCare is the Medicare brand for Centene Corporation, an HMO, PPO, PFFS, PDP plan with a Medicare contract and is an approved Part D sponsor. Our DSNP plans have a contract with the state Medicaid program. Enrollment in our plans depends on contract renewal.
Did somebody say flatbreads? If you haven't already, you need to get to Twin Peaks and try out the new in-house made flatbreads, featuring 4 options, including the Hottie Jalapeno Popper, Hawaii 5-0, the Italian, and the OG Pepperoni. Ask your Twin Peaks girl for more details. And don't forget, no one does happy hour like Twin Peaks. Are you a fan of Twin Peaks? Sign up for the E-Club to stay up to date on all things Twin Peaks and score free stuff. Signing up is easy. Just visit twinpeaksrestaurant.com/Peaks Club to get started today.
Have you heard? $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right. My friends at Cordell Transportation are now hiring Class A CDL drivers for home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freight with brand new equipment, and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months, paid orientation, company 401k. Plus, they're now hiring recent truck driving school graduates. Apply today. Online at CordellTransportation.com. Driven to succeed.
Kev, it's a proud day for me.
What's up?
Everyone always says, hey, your hometown, what's it known for? I mean, I don't really know. It's not even known as the place that I grew up. I mean, it's just, I'm not really that important. But now it's official. Van Wert has gone viral. Van Wert, Ohio, city of dreams. Population of 11,000 people. And now thanks to the big story that has shocked the world today. There are more mink running around the city of Van Wert than people.
Goodness gracious.
I mean, my wife just sent me this release of minks from Van Wert, Ohio farm. Headline, thousands of mink released from Van Wert County farm. Cincinnati Enquirer, minks on the loose.
like mink the coat.
See, I'm seeing one for, so this is stupid. Unbelievable. 11,000 people in my hometown, and now there's 40,000 mink who have been released from a mink farm. And, well, goes to show what they say. Everyone's from somewhere.
Facts.
Unbelievable. But that was 11,000 people. 40,000. We're outnumbered 4-1. Jason Fitz, ESPN Radio. Help us out, Jason. Is it mink or minks, the plural version? We can't figure it out.
I think it's mink.
That's what I
think it's mink. But if your new nickname isn't Minx, then you're really missing out on something.
That might be nice than some of the nicknames I've gotten as of late. So I tell you that much. But have you ever heard of Van Wert, Ohio?
No.
But now you have. So when you're out with friends, you could bring up when you're talking about this crazy mink story. Now you'll say, "Hey, I know someone from there. I know someone from that crazy town."
That is very true. And next time I'm in the market for a mink coat, I guess that used to be a big thing in the '80s, didn't it? Like everybody wanted one. Yeah.
Well, if you order one, it might be on back order right about now. There seems to be a mink shortage thanks to the fine folk in Van Wert, Ohio. So
might have some tire marks on it.
Yeah. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Jason, before we called you, we were just talking about Justin Fields. And Ohio State fans we're really excited right now seeing the development of Justin Fields. And we think that that the Bears are onto something with him, and we think that he's onto something right now. We're waiting for that first Buckeye quarterback to make a splash in the NFL. And this is the most excitement we've seen from a Buckeye quarterback in the NFL, possibly ever. But your takeaways right now on Justin Fields and his development with the Bears. I brought up the fact that, when you watch what the Bengals did with Joe Burrow, they showed you, hey, we got something here. They went and got Jamar Chase. They gave him every offensive weapon except a line that you can imagine. You look at what the Jets are doing. You look what the Dolphins are doing with Tua. Those teams are telling their fan bases, we love our quarterback. The Bears haven't done anything for Justin Fields. Is that a message that they don't believe in him, or what's going on with the Bears and Justin Fields and the development of him over the last 3 weeks in your eyes?
I think the message coming into the season was, let's find out. And now the message is becoming a resounding yes, we know. And part of this comes from the fact that, when you have a new coaching staff and a new offense, I think it just takes a little time for the quarterback to learn them, but also for them to learn the quarterback. And there's been a real change over the last few weeks in the way that they've called the game and what they've asked Justin Fields to do. It feels like everything is clicked. Let's acknowledge that we came into this year, even with Philadelphia, saying, hey, is Jalen Hurts the guy? Let's see what he looks like with all these weapons. Well, I think the Bears came in saying, who's Justin Fields? And now that they've gotten this answer in how to make it click with Justin Fields, I would anticipate, especially given the fact that they have more money than any other team in the NFL going into this offseason, they are going to make it rain to surround him with weapons because he showed that he can be the guy they build around. So the most important thing for the Bears this year was never going to be winning games. It was going to be identifying if Justin Fields is the guy, and that's what's happened in the last 3 weeks.
So it's way too early to be talking about the NFL draft. But we were just talking, the Bears might have that top 5 draft pick, and it's such a deep quarterback draft. I'm not even suggesting they look at quarterbacks, but obviously they're not going to be looking at quarterbacks, but a lot of teams will. If they do have that top 5 draft pick, that's going to have a lot of value to it. So if they have all that money, they could get a ton of draft picks in return for that top 5. The Bears could be a very interesting team this offseason, as you alluded to, and Buckeye fans should be excited about that with Justin Fields.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned the draft equity. What's really interesting, I talked to 2 different draft experts a couple of days ago about the quarterback position, because working around college football so much, I get it with Bryce, I get it with CJ. I don't, frankly, get it with Will Levis. I don't think you can be inconsistent and lose to Vandy and tell me that you're a top 5 pick. But I've been told by a couple of different guys that know the league well that teams are already in love with his athleticism, his ability to make plays, and the fact that he is so prototypical. Like Bryce Young, Bryce is a little small for a quarterback, right? Maybe he holds the ball too long. There's a knock around Alabama that he doesn't do a great job reading protection and figuring out what needs to happen for the blitz, right? So you can find a fatal flaw. People are in love with Will Levis's athleticism already. So in a world where you've got 3 quarterbacks that I think are probably going to be top 5 picks, now all of a sudden you add on top of that Will Anderson and whoever else from the defensive side that we fall in love with. If the Bears are sitting at 5, they're going to have a very interesting conversation about, do you trade out or do you bank on one of the wide receivers that you fall in love with? This is where we are already. I mean, I think Chicago, though, I think they have roughly $100 million in cap space next year. Like, they are going to truly be able to quickly turn their fortune around. You got to be looking at a team like Philly that was aggressive in the offseason and aggressive in the draft. That's your model. That's how you tried to do business.
You know, we're talking about 2 5-4 teams, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Chargers, both sitting 5-4, both young stud quarterbacks. Which one of them has the best track to the playoffs? Because both of them are in second place right now, looking up in the division. Which one of those teams can make the playoffs?
I think the Chargers have a pretty easy schedule ahead of them. But, man, I am truly Charlie Brown every year with the Chargers. And, you know, I was talking to somebody last night on ESPN about the fact that, well, you know, they have a lot of injuries. They do every year. Like, I don't know why they can't keep a very talented roster healthy on the field. And, you know, I think it's an absolute it's idiocy to me that we sit here and we fault Lamar Jackson for his poor playoff performances, and then we turn around and praise Justin Herbert, who has yet to play a single playoff snap. So, like, I don't know what to think of the Chargers anymore. They're too talented not to be a playoff team. They've got a schedule ahead of them that I think makes it possible for them. But I also think I can say that in the same breath and say that even at 5-4, they are an epic disappointment this year. They should have been. This was a year where they should have been in the same level of the Chiefs, and they're not. I think their entire staff is going to be looking over their shoulder about whether or not they keep their jobs, and we're going to be reanalyzing a lot with this team because they have wasted the early years of Justin Herbert.
Speaking of staffs being in trouble, a lot of people got a lot of things to say about McCarthy going for it on 4th down in overtime instead of punting. What did you think about that?
Yeah, it's weird. And look, we pick and choose when we love aggressiveness. And by pick and choose, I mean when it works, we think it's great. When it doesn't, we think it's stupid. The problem here is that McCarthy never gets benefit of the doubt because he hasn't earned it, right? So also being that gunslinger of a coach isn't necessarily how you've defined everything. Like Staley for the Chargers is that guy. Like he's always going to look at it and say, hey, this is what I do. It's part of the culture. You just have to accept it. McCarthy, sometimes he's conservative. Sometimes he's aggressive. Right. Sometimes he knows the clock. Sometimes he doesn't. So I think that's a hard part of it. Like we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what to see from it. Then it didn't work. That's going to bring real question marks. Just frankly, the Cowboys, I just said what a disappointment the Chargers are. The Cowboys have Dak, and they have a lot of talent on that roster. They should be a Super Bowl caliber team. So, when we all believe that McCarthy's the reason they're not, every time he does something like this, we're just going to flame him for it.
ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz with us. Jason, last week you talked about your friendship with Jeff Saturday, and he's been in the news all over the place. This has to be tough for you, and this isn't like a funny conversation. Like it has to be tough for you because obviously working in sports media as Jeff Saturday has, and he's had a lot of roles, even with his relationship with the Colts, Ring of Honor, as a consultant and all those things. But man, like him getting hired as the coach, it brought up a completely different conversation that wasn't so much about Jeff Saturday, the person, but he was in the front row of the battlegrounds, of course. How tough has that been for you? Again, just kind of sitting back, working in sports media, and a lot of guys, even with the network you work for, totally just kind of going in on him and the Colts and everything like that. How tough is that? And even as a Raiders fan, I'm sure you were happy for your dude, and it was a tough loss for the Raiders. But you've been a mix of emotions this week, I bet, over the last week.
I mean, and quite literally, Jeff just texted me a few minutes ago before we got on the phone and said, bet you're rooting for me now. And so, look, and I got that coming. I got that coming all day, every day. I think the hardest part about all of this is that it creates an emotional, like visceral reaction from people when you see someone that's getting this job that obviously doesn't have the qualifications for this job. That being said, it's never lost on me. I'm a fiddle player that now sits on radio every day talking about sports. And I'm sure there were plenty of people when I got the job that I got that turned around and said, man, this guy's not qualified to do what he does. And all I can do is just put in the work and hope that I prove people wrong. And I try and do that every day. I think, we've got to look at Jim Irsay, and we've got to look at the Colts, and we've got to look at all of this with the organization and say, does the NFL have a hiring practice policy problem, I should say, when it comes to minorities? Absolutely. Do they need to continue to figure out how to address that? Absolutely. Is this a black eye on that entire process? Absolutely. Can Jeff Saturday still be successful? Like, could Jim Irsay have somehow found a diamond in the rough? Maybe. I mean, we don't know. And so I think the hardest part about it is it creates so much reaction not just based on this hire. This is just a straw that breaks the camel's back for an issue that the league has had for so many years. And I don't blame that at all. Now that doesn't change the fact that, Jeff Saturday got that call, and it's not his job when he gets that call to turn around and say, well, Mr. Irsay, are you sure you haven't considered a minority candidate? Like, the world doesn't work that way. So, he's going to make the most of the opportunity he gets. That much I know.
So, and you brought up a good point because it's interesting, with the industry that we work in. And yes, I know you kind of, downplayed who you are as a radio host. I mean, you're more than just a former fiddle player, by the way. You do such a great job on ESPN radio, but at the end of the day, you still worked up local radio ranks, right? Like, so you still had to move up. And so, but like, there's a lot of media out there that have to move their way up, small markets to medium markets to big markets to maybe national. But we're also living in a day and age now where media jobs, or sports media especially, they're going to, well, the credible ones have to be the ones that played, right? Former athletes. That's who gets those jobs. And some of them don't move their way up. I'm not saying that they have to, but that's kind of why, like, I didn't have as big of issue with this, is because they're just saying, hey, the fact that he was a former player and has the experience and the relationships, we work in an industry that justifies that all the time. But every point you just made is valid, especially when it comes to everything that's going on with the hiring practices and trying to revamp that system to avoid things like this from happening. But this type of thing happens in all industries, especially the industry that me, Kevin, and yourself work in.
Yeah, and look, there are people that I work with in the halls at ESPN every day that reminded me quickly when I got there that I didn't belong there. That is very true.
Where did you start, Jason? Where did you start? In Nashville, right?
Nashville was my first. I started before podcasts were a thing. I started a podcast, and I grew that podcast up from the ground, and that's how I got my first opportunities. Was from a podcast where I had sports guys talk about music and music guys talk about sports. And that got me an opportunity to do one show with ESPN. And I quit the band with no idea how I was going to pay my bills, but I took that one show and I took that chance. And right after I got that one show, I got an audition with the Nashville ESPN radio affiliate, small station there. And I got lucky. I'm the first to admit, like, my audition week happened to be the week the Titans were taking on the Raiders. I was really prepared for that audition show. I'm not going to lie. But, better to be lucky than good. They love my personality. And I was really proud. I mean, I did a year and a half of radio in Nashville, and I took that station from getting a really small rating. We were getting about a 0.5. And when I left that station, we were drawing a 4.5. And for anybody that doesn't know, that's a pretty substantial increase.
Yes,
but I did that by working my tail off every day. And when we finished our show at 10 a.m., I sat there with coaches and I said, hey, make me better. And then I would leave there and I'd go to sales meetings and say, hey, how do I get in front of corporate people? How do I make this station make more money? Like, what do I have to do? So I grinded, and that's not for everybody. So I think I look at Jeff Saturday and what he said at the podium when he was standing there saying, like, I'm not going to back down from this. I think I work now with some athletes that come in Harry Douglas is an example of somebody that Harry had an amazing career at Louisville. He had an amazing career in the NFL, and he's had a great broadcast career. And I will go to bed at 2 a.m. with Harry texting me about something he sees on film. And I'll wake up at 5 a.m. with Harry texting me with something he sees on film. He doesn't have to do the work. He chooses to do the work because it defines him. And that's amazing. But I also have worked with plenty of athletes at ESPN that don't watch a second of film, that walk in and say, I know football and I can handle this. So, I just think it's hard to broad stroke anybody that's getting opportunity until you see what they do once they've got it. And that's what Jeff Saturday has now. Is not right or wrong. He's got an opportunity. It's going to be really interesting for him.
The band Perry, obviously, that's the band you were a part of, back in the day. How did you get into this? I know you talked about the podcast and everything, but what made you transition from that to the sports? I just had a friend of mine text me to say, make sure to ask you that because he's fascinated by that. How did you get into the sports world? You just answered that technically with the podcast story, but what made you really want to get out of the music world? Because you're talented in that venue as well.
Our busiest year, I was gone 300 days on the road that year. And I came home and I was like, man, I was talking to my friends. I was like, I am so thankful to do this. I've worked my whole life to do this. I've got gold, platinum records. I've got Grammys, and I don't love what I do. I'm thankful for it, but I don't love it. And one of my friends said, if I asked 100 of your friends what you really love, what would the answer be? And I said sports without hesitation. And he was like, hey, find a way to talk about sports. And so I put a little tiny link up for some buddies on Facebook at the time where I did like a 10-minute rant of something. And one of my friends was like, this is almost as obnoxious as listening to you talk about it on the bus every day. And I just, for me, it was like a drug. It was my passion. And so I ripped it apart and I sat down, I listened to I took notes on everything I listened to try and figure out what I loved about Dan Patrick, what I loved about Colin Cowherd, what I loved about Mike and Mike. And it's like, what do I love about this medium? And then I just started reaching out to people asking for advice on how to get good, you know? And when I put the podcast up, it was amazing because there was one episode where I was using every network relationship I had. And so I had an episode where I had Fall Out Boy and Charlie Daniels and Adam Schefter in the same podcast,
Wow.
right? And I had 40,000 listens to that podcast. And I'm telling you, I felt like I was on cloud nine. And the next week I was sitting in Norway in a coffee shop yelling into a microphone. And I had 12 listens, not 12,000. I had 12 listens the next week. And one of my buddies said, man, when your numbers are so inconsistent and nobody knows if this is ever going to take off, why do you do it? And I said, man, hey, number one, I do it every week because I said I would. I made a commitment to it. I never missed a podcast in the years that I podcasted. I said, number two, I don't need 40,000 listens. I need one. I need the right person to listen to it one day, and that'll change my life. And, you know, I was very lucky that somebody in the talent department at ESPN stumbled across the podcast and said, I'll give you notes. He gave me 3 pages of notes, and I called him a week later and said, listen to this week's show. Tell me what you think. He called me an hour afterwards and said, I've never heard anybody take every single note I gave him. That means you're coachable. I think you have a future. I got really lucky that like people like John McClain that came on my podcast as a guest, he came out afterwards and was like, you're really good at this. I want to introduce you to Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter said, I want to introduce you to Peter King. And I tried to build relationships and get people to, like, I care about people. I tried to get people to care about me. And I just took every ounce of feedback I could get. And that's still how I'm natured, y'all. Like, still to this day, I finish radio shows and I go, when I'm on a treadmill, I pull up an episode of this week's Spain and Fitz and I listen to it. What could I have done better? How could I do it better? Like, that's just how I'm natured. And luckily it served me in this business.
Man, what an awesome story, man. One question for me before we let you get up out of here, man. Is the AP college football poll going to be the same as the CFP tonight?
I think it's going to be so boring. And I got to do rankings reaction tonight. And it's late at night we're doing it. I'm
it's coming on at like, what, 9:30 tonight?
Yeah, it's like our show's not even on until I think 10 o'clock. So, like, we're on from 10 to 11 on digital platforms tonight on ESPN. Reacting to this, and it's going to be boring, y'all. Like, I cannot wait for Ohio State, Michigan, because, like, look, let me be clear. As much as, and I know we got our friends out there that don't love what I say. I still think Ohio State's going to just absolutely destroy Michigan, but I'm hopeful. I am so hopeful I'm wrong because I want somehow, some way, an epic, instant, classic game between those two teams, right? That suddenly gives me some way that I get Ohio State and Michigan in the playoff, and then I need LSU to go out there and just rip Georgia apart by 40 in the SEC championship game somehow, so that we get no SEC teams, 2 Big Ten teams, so we get total chaos.
Yeah, for me, this is my last thing as we let you go, but like, I know this sounds horrible, but man, TCU, please lose. Please, please
right.
lose. Like, let's be real. I know people get the playoff it's an elitism invitational. I'm like, yes, it is. Like, who cares? Like, you mean to tell me you want to watch boring football? And that's disrespectful. I could say it's no disrespect. It is. It's very disrespectful. But we know we like what we like, and I think we all know no one's gonna be as jacked about Georgia versus Alabama. See how that just rolled off the tongue on accident? Georgia against TCU in the first round of the playoff. Come on, TCU, lose.
You're right. And what everybody really wants is Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, and insert SEC team here. I don't care if it's Tennessee. I don't care if it's Alabama. We're going to those brands of, like, by the way, they're really good. Leave it to Oregon to screw up this whole thing. Now I got to bank on USC to somehow make it interesting. I have no idea. I feel like I'm putting lipstick on a pig tonight, y'all. It's going to be boring.
All right, good stuff. ESPN Radio's Jason Fitz. Jason, are you working next week? Are you on with us? I know it's Thanksgiving week. Do we have you next week?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, that's how you start the Thanksgiving. Plus, it's Ohio State, Michigan week. You have to come on, right?
It's rivalry. I've worked for years to be able to say rivalry week efficiently. We're saying it as much as possible next week.
Oh, hold on. Rivalry. Holy crap. Like, you're right. Rivalry week. Yeah, you do. You have to enunciate that really carefully. I didn't realize that was a challenge.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Rivalry week kicks my ass every year. Not this year. I'm ready for it.
Jason Fitz, you the man. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Rivalry week. There, I think we got that down pat. Good stuff from Jason Fitz. But yes, he talks about his career all the time, being, a musician back in the day, but he was a fiddle player, a violinist, of course, for the band Perry. And then I've always found his story fascinating. I really came across Jason when he was working, of course, with Mike Golick. When it was transitioned to Golick and Wingo, that's when I really became familiar with Jason Fitz, and he's been a friend for a while. Awesome job. Always appreciate him coming on with us each and every week. Does not have to do that. ESPN doesn't set that up. That's just him just basically, donating his time to us every single week. He does not have to do that for us little folk over here in the old DYT. But shout out to Jason. He's the man. Thank you to him. All right, we'll step away for a few minutes. 518-1410. We have not taken a call yet today. I apologize to those who have been waiting on hold. Let's take some calls. We'll be right back. More of the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash when we come back.
You've got advanced prostate cancer, but you're not waiting around. You want straight talk, the facts about Orgovix.
Orgovix Relagolix 120 milligram prescription tablets is a treatment for adults with advanced prostate cancer. Fact: Orgovix is a different kind of androgen deprivation therapy treatment, a pill, not an injection. Orgovix may cause serious side effects, including a heart condition called QT prolongation. Tell your doctor right away if you feel dizzy, faint, have a racing or pounding heart, or chest pain. Orgovix can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during treatment and for 2 weeks after Orgovix treatment. The most common side effects include hot flushes, increased blood sugar and blood fat levels, muscle and joint pain, decreased blood hemoglobin levels, increased liver enzymes, tiredness, constipation, and diarrhea. Other side effects include weight gain, decreased sex drive, and erectile function problems. Orgovix may cause infertility. Talk to your doctor if infertility is a concern for you.
Go with Orgovix. Ask your doctor. For more facts, visit gowiththefacts.com.
WING 1410 to get $200 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Ohio. Plus, 5 customers will win a $100,000 free bet only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code WING 1410. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966. 21 and up. Physically present in Ohio. Eligibility restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Subject to regularity licensing requirements. 1 per customer. $200 issued as $825 free bets. No purchase necessary for sweepstakes. Void where prohibited. Ends first day. DraftKings is allowed to operate in Ohio. See terms at dkng.co/OH.
My dad has a cold, but also has high blood pressure. That's why I got him Vicks NyQuil High Blood Pressure for fast, powerful nighttime relief. Unlike some ordinary cold medicines, it's specially formulated for people like my dad. NyQuil High Blood Pressure is sugar-free, alcohol-free, and decongestant-free.
Vicks NyQuil High Blood Pressure. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, fever, sore throat, cold, and flu for people with high blood pressure.
Like my dad.
Medicine. Use as directed.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See?